On today's show, the Cavs didn't win the title on Saturday afternoon in Miami, but they did check off a box that makes me a little bit bigger of a believer in their chances. We'll talk about that, plus everything from Game 3 right here in Miami on today's edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? My name is Danny Cunningham. You might know me from my time covering the Cleveland Cavaliers, places like my Substack, The Inside Shot, Cleveland Magazine, 92.3 The Fan, and a number of other stops along the way. I want to say thank you to you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. And if you're watching the show on YouTube, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox. No console needed. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. The Cleveland Cavaliers beat the Miami Heat Saturday afternoon, 124-87 here in Miami to take a 3-0 lead in this best-of-7 series. And there were a lot of things that stood out to me in this game. And maybe you have already listened to the instant reaction podcast that I did with Wes Goldberg from Locked On Heat that posted a few hours after the game on Saturday. So some things might overlap a little bit, but I've got one big takeaway that I want to start with that I didn't talk about very much in that show because that was kind of just more so about the game. And this is a bigger picture Cavs thing that really comes to mind off of this, not just the fact that the Cavs won, but how they won, the style in which they won. And I have been from, maybe not game 1 of the season, but certainly like during the season opening winning streak, I've been somebody who's been a believer that the Cavs are good enough to win the title. I don't know that I believed it in training camp. I don't know the exact date I believed it. Maybe that win against the Golden State Warriors. But I've believed it since October, November, right? And I think if you listen to the show, you know that to be true. I think that there are still boxes that they've, need to check off when you get to the postseason. Like, does the regular season success translate to the playoffs? Like, I think that there are fair things to think about, right? That's not crazy. I think that on Saturday, the Cavs checked the box off, and that box was the maturity and focus box that I think a championship level team needs to have, because I think it would have been a really easy thing to come into Miami up 2-0 in the series. Saturday, 1:00 game, not a great environment. The crowd in Miami was late arriving, even by Miami standards. I thought it was a very late arriving crowd. I think it would have been really easy to come out, have no energy, just kind of go through the motions and allow the Heat to build confidence, find a way to win a game at home, right? Like you see so often, and I am personally a big believer in this, that it's a really difficult thing to fake desperation, right? Like you either are desperate or you aren't. And maybe this says more about the Heat than the Cavs, but I don't think it does. I came out of watching this game on Saturday. I was sitting in my seat here at the Kaseya Center. And after the start of the game, and Miami got off to they were up 15-6 before the Cavalanche hit. They were up 15-6. And then the Cavs went on a 33-5 run. And I thought to myself, the Cavs look like the more desperate team in this matchup. And that is not something I anticipated happening on Saturday. And we could talk about what that means for Miami and the fact that they let go of the rope. But the fact that the Cavs came down to Miami up 2-0, all the confidence in the world, and could have said, you know what, if we kick game 4 or game 3, we just got to win game 4. Like, we just have to go for a split in Miami, take care of business, win it at home in game 5. Like, all those things would probably have been reasonable. They wouldn't have been ideal, but that's a reasonable way to think. And, there's no promise that the Cavs are going to come out in game 4 and look the same way they did in game 5. That's in game 3, that's a different conversation. But the fact that they came to Miami and played as well as they did, and just absolutely throttled the Heat in basically every aspect of basketball on Saturday afternoon, leads me to believe that this team has the required focus and mental toughness and ability to just maturity, I guess is the best way to describe this. They showed that to me on Saturday afternoon, because again, I think this would have been a really easy spot to just say, hey, we won 2 games at home. We're feeling good about ourselves. Darius Garland not playing in this game. We're down a little bit. Donovan Mitchell doesn't have a great shooting afternoon, I guess. That's an easy game to kick. That's an easy game to just say, hey, it happens. We lost. We'll get them next time. Instead, the Cavs dominated. Like, the Cavs looked like the more desperate team. They looked like the team that wanted it more. And I think that when you have a 2-0 series lead going into Saturday afternoon, that's a really hard thing to manufacture. But the Cavs manufactured it. And I think that, to me, is the thing. And we will talk about how good they were defensively. We'll talk about how it was such a well-balanced group effort offensively. We'll get into all of that stuff. But the fact that the Cavs came out with the best mindset they possibly could. And Kenny Atkinson, after game 2, he preached focus for game 3. I asked Kenny before the game on Saturday, what does that mean? And he talked about composure. If we get down early, how do we battle back? Well, the Cavs got down early. They didn't have a great start to the game. Miami hit a few shots. The fans that were in attendance got loud. The Cavs struggled shooting the basketball. I thought they generated good looks early, but they struggled shooting the basketball. And it's about how you respond. And the Cavs responded as well as they could have done. They were down 15-6, going on an 18-0 run, 33-5 extended run. They went from down 15-6 to up by as many as 40 in the second half of this game. This was a complete domination. They didn't need to play this well. Like, nobody would have, had the Cavs not done this on Saturday, nobody would have been like, the Cavs probably can't win the title because they lost game 3, right? Like, that's not a thing that would have happened. That would not have been a conversation. But the fact that they were mature enough to come down to Miami specifically, because Miami is a tough place to play historically, especially for this franchise. The Cavs do not play well in this building ever. 1 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, and the Cavs just came out and they looked like the team that belonged. And Miami looked like they didn't belong in the postseason. And yes, the Miami Heat are not nearly as talented as the Cavs. There's a big talent discrepancy in this series. We can talk about what that means for coaching. Like, I think Kenny Atkinson's done some really good things. At the end of the day, he also has a lot of tools in his tool belt that Eric Spoelstra just doesn't have for the Heat. But the Cavs being as focused as they were, the Cavs being as locked in and able to manufacture that sense of desperation, despite the fact that they've been in the driver's seat this entire series, I think tells us a lot about who the Cavs are and what the makeup of this team is. I think that's a really, really important thing for this team moving forward, because they're going to get tested at points. It might not be in the series. I don't think it's going to be in the series. They'll get tested at points, but I do think that this game on Saturday, given the circumstances, given everything, I can point at this game and say, that's a very mentally tough team, especially when they didn't get out to a good start, especially when Darius Garland didn't play because of a toe injury. And we will talk about that, things, just kind of where I think that is. We'll talk about that coming up. But it would have been really easy to say, just today's not our day. That happens. I mean, look at what happened to Oklahoma City the other night in their game 3, playing in Memphis. They won that game because they played great defense in the second half, and partially because John Morant got hurt, but they were down by 29 in that game. Go look at what happened to Boston, game 3 in Orlando, where they go on the road and they are a much more talented team than the Magic. And I get it. Boston's a little beat up the same way the Cavs are now a little beat up with Darius Garland, but they go on the road and they can't find a way to win a game. Yes, their opponent's better, but the Cavs didn't have that. The Cavs didn't allow that to happen. They've been dominant. I think for the most part, like, if you break up this series into quarters, like quarters played, the Cavs, it feels like, have been dominant for more than half of it, and they're up 3-0. And I think that shows. Obviously, Miami played a really good second half in game 2. But overall, this was so impressive to me. This game was so impressive to me by the Cavs. And it almost had I don't want to say it had nothing to do with the final score, because that wouldn't be true. But it had so much, me being impressed by this, I think, had so much more to do with the mentality that the Cavs came out with and the way they won, rather than how much they won by. Like, we've watched this season, right? I've done a podcast after nearly every single game that the Cavs played this year. So we've talked about all the games. We've seen them win games like this. We've seen them have blowout victories. But this one impresses me more because of the stage, because of the circumstances surrounding it, because they were able to build up a sense of desperation that a team in their position really can't ever do. And that to me really, really stands out as impressive. And again, I went into today thinking the Cavs can win the title. I come out of today, I think, believing in this team a little bit more, not as a championship contender, but a team that I think, really can go all the way and win the title, because I think that to do that, you have to have a sense of focus, of mental toughness, of being able to create good situations for yourself. And the Cavs did that on Saturday. Now, exactly what happened in this game, let's talk about the actual basketball, who played well. We'll talk about Darius Garland's toe injury that held him out, whether or not I think he should play in game 4, whether or not it's concerning. We're going to get into all of that next right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Basketball and hockey playoffs, they're here. We're talking about them right now, and there's no better time to turn your sports knowledge into real cash than with Prize Picks, the top destination for daily fantasy action. Prize Picks makes it simple. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and you're in. You can even mix and match players across basketball, hockey, baseball. That's going on right now. And more for a shot to win up to 2,000. That's a lot. 2,000 times your cash. Maybe you're going to take Nikola Jokic for more than 25 points and Jaylen Brown for more than 4 assists. Their teams need those guys right now. I'm recording this before Denver plays the Clippers on Saturday. I don't know what's going to happen in that game. I don't feel great about it, but I would bet Nikola Jokic is going to need to have a big night. And if they lose, he's going to have a bigger night when they get to game 5. Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday's hamstring's bugging him. Could he have more of a playmaking role for the Celtics? I know he's fighting through some stuff too. I don't know, but Prize Picks, you can take advantage and turn your playoff hot takes into tickets to basketball's championship series, because every lineup you make on Prize Picks will enter you in the Takes 2 tickets sweepstakes, which could get you and a +1 a VIP trip to the ship. Maybe you'll see Cleveland there. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDON NBA, to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. Like I said earlier, you can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs, and make sure you're subscribed. So let's talk about the actual basketball that was played on Saturday, as opposed to the mindset stuff and all that stuff, which to me stands above the things that actually happened in terms of the basketball stuff on the floor. But the Cavs won this game defensively. This was, I don't know the last time that I walked away as impressed with what the Cavs could do on the defensive end of the floor. Just, they did everything well on Saturday. And you can point to the box score. Miami shot 40-something% from 3, 47% from 3, which is a big number. But the Cavs limited their attempts to 34. Like, that's a big enough number to where if they shoot a good percentage, it's not going to kill you. I thought they did a great job. And I talked about this a bunch with Wes on the Instant Reaction podcast yesterday. I thought they did such a good job defending Tyler Herro. Herro had 13 points on 13 shots. He was 1 of 3 from deep, had 3 turnovers, 3 assists, 4 boards. Max Strus defended him a lot, and the Cavs started top blocking Tyler Herro. And what that is they are essentially doing everything they can to deny him the ball. That when I talk about that, it is essentially they are comfortable having Max Strus or DeAndre Hunter, Dean Wade defended him at times. Whoever's defending Tyler Herro, they're comfortable with him always being between the ball and Tyler. And sometimes that means Tyler is, typically a rule of defense is you want to be between your defender and the basket, right? When you're top blocking somebody, you are more so focused on denying that person the basketball. And sometimes that means your man is going to be between you and the basket, where you're not going to be denying him a path to the rim, but you might be denying him the ball. And the Cavs did a great job of that. Like, the beauty in how they defended Tyler Herro wasn't the fact that he only had 13 points. It's the fact that he only had 13 shots. And throughout this series, it has felt like every good shot that Tyler Herro has gotten, like easy look that he's been able to get, he's made. I've been really impressed with what Tyler has done offensively in this series. But on Saturday, the Cavs did such a good job denying him the basketball. And we talked about this on the podcast with Wes. At times, it felt like the Cavs were playing 4-on-4 defensively. And typically you would think, oh, that just means that the other team has more space. But when you're playing defensively and you're playing 4-on-4, yes, there's typically more space to defend. But if one of the four guys on your side is the defensive player of the year, and the one guy that is out of the picture on the other side is the thing that makes the opponent's offense work. Tyler Herro very clearly is Miami's offensive engine. He's the guy that makes everything go for them. They don't have another really strong scorer. And I think Bam's a good player who had a really bad game on the offensive end of the floor Saturday. But Max did a great job just not letting Tyler get the basketball in his hands. Thought Dean did an awesome job on him. Like, that was very clearly part of the game plan for the Cavs in this game. They wanted to deny Tyler the basketball. And I think that's a really, really challenging thing to do. They hadn't necessarily done that a ton in the first couple of games. They tried it here and there, but I don't know that they necessarily ramped the pressure all the way up. And them doing that on Saturday made life a lot more difficult for the Heat, other than just, like, obviously making things challenging for Tyler. I thought it actually made things really difficult for Bam too. And Bam had 22 points for Miami. Needed 20 shots to get there. The only reason that his box score looks good is because he hit 4 threes. That's not who Bam is. Like, he's not a shooter from outside. He's not going to make a lot of threes. I think the fact that he took 7 3-pointers is a really big testament to what the Cavs were doing defensively, because that's not his game. He's not somebody that lives out there. And a couple of his threes were corner threes that came like at the end of the shot clock. It's like, well, you better shoot this or you're going to get a 24-second violation. And he made them, and credit to him for that. But the thing that jumps off the page when I look at Bam's box score on Saturday, he had 6 turnovers. And a couple of them were travels, a couple of them were bad passes, a couple of them were the ball got stripped away. Not all of them were like directly caused because of Evan Mobley, but I thought Evan did such a great job applying pressure on Bam. And it's really rare, and this is one of the things that makes Evan a special defender. It's really rare to trust somebody Evan's size to apply that much pressure that far away from the basket, right? Like, typically you don't see guys that have the frame Evan Mobley has that can play tight defense 23 to 25 feet away from the basket. That doesn't happen very often. Now, part of the reason why that's possible is because the Cavs have a lot of good team defenders behind him. But you don't trust that because those guys often aren't quick enough. And what teams will do to counteract that is they'll run like DHO actions, dribble handoff actions, and Evan just had no part of allowing that. The Miami Heat can't do anything right now offensively when Evan Mobley's on the floor. He is having in this series, and there's not a way to quantify this. And I really wish there were, because I think he's been fantastic on that end. But Miami is having such a difficult time. Just like, that means just like, straight up not having a good time, dude. That is Miami offensively right now when Evan Mobley's on the floor. That is how it felt on Saturday. That was Bam on Saturday. Like, he scored. He rebounded okay. But he had 6 turnovers to 1 assist. Like, that to me is the perfect microcosm of what the Cavs did defensively. And it wasn't just Evan. It wasn't just Max. I thought Jarrett was good defensively. I thought DeAndre Hunter was really good defensively. I thought Dean was like Dean Wade. 0 points, 0 of 2 shooting. Got a couple of issues with some stuff he did offensively. Like, he passed up a couple of shots that Dean Wade needs to be attempting. He needs to take more shots. There was one at the top of the key specifically that I sat there and I said, because it ended in Isaac Okoro taking a 9-1-1 3 from the left wing that barely hit the rim. It was like, either you got to toss this one up or it's a shot clock violation. After Dean passed on what should be considered for him a good look at the top of the key. He needs to be more aggressive there. But defensively, I thought he was fantastic. And this is a case of somebody stepping up, because Dean played 21 minutes in this game. He played more minutes than Isaac. Isaac really did not play very much. I did some good things at the end of the game. I didn't think the stint he had in the first half was very good, and maybe that's why he didn't play until the end of the game. Maybe he didn't play until the end of the game because it was just such a blowout that garbage time started with like 6 minutes left. So I don't know. But I thought Dean did such a good job defensively, and he stepped up and played more minutes because Kenny still wants to play, his full rotation. Without Darius Garland, obviously there are more minutes up for grabs because you're subtracting like 34 minutes out of the rotation, so they've got to go somewhere. You saw DeAndre play 28. You saw Max play 31. Those are higher minute totals than what we've seen. And then Dean was another beneficiary of it where he played 21 minutes, almost 22 minutes in this game. And I could not have been more impressed with what he did defensively. He was a big reason why Miami struggled. And the Cavs went to a lineup at one point in the first half. This was part of their run in the second quarter. They went to a lineup of Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley, which obviously that pair plays a ton together. With them were DeAndre Hunter, Dean Wade, and Max Strus. And that lineup is just like the defensive destroyer of worlds for them. The weak link there is Donovan Mitchell, who I thought played well defensively. He didn't shoot the basketball particularly well in this one, and we'll talk about what that means for how the Cavs approach this game offensively. But there's no weak links at times. Like, there's just nowhere for Miami to attack. And it felt like the Cavs defense was, and Max Strus put it this way, just like everyone's on a string. As one person moves, another person moves. It was one of the most impressive defensive efforts from the Cavs that I can remember seeing this year. Coming in this spot, I think it's big time. I was really, really impressed with them. I was impressed with Evan. I was impressed with Max. I was impressed with a lot of what the Cavs were able to do defensively. And we can talk about the offense, and we will talk about the offense. But ultimately, the Cavs won this game because they put forth an absolutely elite defensive effort. Now, Darius Garland didn't play. What's the word with him? And we are going to talk about the offense because Donovan Mitchell didn't have a great day. It didn't matter because the Cavs has so much depth. That is straight ahead right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NBA playoffs, they're here. We're talking about them right now. And FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action because right now when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if that first bet wins. FanDuel makes betting easy, whether it's picking your favorite team or diving into player props. Points, rebounds, assists, all three of them combined. Whatever you want, FanDuel has you covered. From three-pointers, steals, those are stats. You can bet on those. Assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props, or maybe you just think, hey, I think Cleveland's going to win game 4 on Monday night. Simple as that. You can make it fun. You can make it simple. You can mix it. You can do it all with FanDuel. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for your chance to win big. So don't miss out. Head on over to FanDuel.com. That is FanDuel.com and claim $250 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. Again, FanDuel.com, or download the FanDuel Sportsbook app and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. If you're watching on YouTube right now, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button for me, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. A proud part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Let's start with Darius Garland here because Garland was listed on the injury report Friday afternoon as questionable with a left great toe sprain. For those of you at home, the great toe is the big toe. Why they can't call it the big toe, I don't know. But it's called the great toe on the injury report. So Darius injured that near the end of the regular season. He would have missed some time just like for resting purposes anyways, but he was listed as out with that at the end of the year. Worth noting, because this is a re-aggravation for him of this injury. I asked Kenny Atkinson about it before the game. He said, yes, he injured it in the fourth quarter. So I know there's a play floating around. I don't remember who attempted the shot. It's been a play floating around on social media Like Darius contests a shot on the left corner and then kind of is limping a little bit afterwards. I believe that is when he did re-injure it. Kenny Atkinson spoke to it. I believe that's the play he mentioned, but I don't remember for sure because that was some hours ago at this point. I do not get the sense that this is a super concerning thing for Darius. I do not think the Cavs are very worried about this injury. Now, does that mean he plays in game 4? Maybe, but I don't necessarily think it makes a ton of sense. If the Cavs would have lost this game, I think there's a greater chance that Darius would play in game 4. I think with a 3-0 lead, the Cavs should be cautious. Now, I don't know if he will or won't as I record this. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. I'm saying my opinion, I would not play him in game 4 with a 3-0 lead. If it gets back to Cleveland for game 5, let's say Miami wins game 4. Sure, different conversation. Plus, he adds more rest, but so much of what matters here, and I'm going to talk about why sweeping matters on tomorrow's Locked On Cavs. It's going to be a thing I do. But you want to be as healthy as possible, and the Cavs' goal is not just to win game 4 against Miami, like it's to win the title. And Darius Garland might help you winning game 4 in Miami, maybe, or Darius Garland sitting out means you can find a way to win anyways, and him being healthier for the stretch is what actually really matters here. So I personally would not play Darius Garland, what the Cavs are going to do, but I do not get the sense that this is something they're very concerned about. So without Garland, typically one would think, okay, well, Donovan Mitchell is going to pick up the slack, and he's been really good in the first 2 playoff games for the Cavs. He was awesome in game 1. He's the reason they won game 2 because he scored, 17 points in the fourth quarter. So he didn't have a great game on Saturday. He was fine. He didn't shoot the basketball all that well. He's had certainly some much better games in the playoffs. He's had 2 better games this year. He's 4 of 14, 3 of 8 from 3, 2 of 5 at the free throw line. Like Donovan Mitchell just did not have it shooting the basketball. Scored 13 points in 30 minutes. Didn't matter because I think one of the other things that stood out to me, and this probably stood out more offensively than defensively, but just the wealth of depth that the Cavs have with options to score the basketball. Donovan doesn't have a great game. Okay, that's fine. DeAndre Hunter can go get you 21 points. Jarrett Allen had 22. Max Strus hit 4 threes. He had 18. Evan Mobley had 19 points on 13 shots. The Cavs had 2 players. No one scored more than 22. Like Jarrett Allen led the Cavs with 22 points in this game. No one scored more than 22. They still scored 124 points. They had 6 guys reach double figures. That, to me, is one of the most impressive things. They functionally played an 8-man rotation because Isaac Okoro really didn't play in the second half. And Isaac, I thought, was good in garbage time. They functionally played an 8-man rotation. 2 of them went scoreless, and Sam Merrill and Dean Wade. I thought Sam was fine. I thought Dean was awesome, despite the fact that he didn't score. Everyone else reached double figures. The Cavs have, at their best, the ability to share the basketball in such an awesome way that it allows guys to really thrive. And it can be somebody else every night. Like, was I surprised that DeAndre Hunter scored 21 points? No. He's capable of it. Like, if you watch this team, you know that he's capable of it. It sort of becomes an opportunity thing. And I talked about this the other night after Ty had his big game. I believe I talked about it here. I know I wrote about it on my Substack, where Ty had, 28 points in game 1 because he had 15 shots. It wasn't because he was abnormally good. It was because he had a bigger opportunity in that game than what he's used to. Because when Ty averages, in games that Ty takes 14 or more shots, he averages 24 points a game. It's just he only has 10 games where he's had 14 shots. So for DeAndre Hunter to play 28 minutes, which is above what we've been seeing him play, and I think as we get deeper into the postseason, I think his minute total should probably be around there, if not a little bit higher moving forward. Not in this series, but I think like as we look ahead to Boston, the conference finals, that's going to work. That's going to be where it should be. But when he plays 28 minutes, him scoring 21 points is not crazy. Now, he shot the ball well from 3. He was 3 of 5 from deep. He made all 3 shots that he took inside the arc, and he made all 6 free throws. Like, he was super efficient, which maybe you don't always expect. But when he plays as much, like he's a guy that's more than capable of doing that. Like this shouldn't be some surprise. Jarrett Allen was awesome, partially because Miami is so worried about stopping Evan Mobley offensively that Bam Adebayo, their best defender by miles, has to defend him. And this means Khalil Ware is defending Jarrett Allen. And Khalil Ware, I think, has a bright future. I like him as a player. He is not ready for this series. He's not. This is a series that if you look for him, this is going to be a huge growth thing, but he's not ready to defend Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley in the postseason. Like Jarrett Allen was the only Cav that scored for the first 6 minutes because that was where the Cavs had the biggest advantage, is that it wasn't necessarily attacking Tyler Herro the way that this has been talked about publicly by Darius Garland and some words going back and forth between these two teams, which has added some spice to a 3-0 series lead for the Cavs. But the Cavs attacked Khalil Ware, and Jarrett Allen was a big part of that. And to me, that's a really important thing that, okay, Donovan wasn't great in this one. Darius Garland didn't play in this. It doesn't matter. There's so many different scoring options for the Cavs. And Ty Jerome had 11 assists off the bench. You felt that. And plus minus, this is the last thing we'll get to today. But plus minus is not always a accurate indicator about how somebody plays. But I felt like it was pretty accurate for a couple of guys today. I felt like it was really accurate for DeAndre Hunter. He was a plus 34 in 28 minutes. Ty Jerome, 21 minutes, plus 33. That is absurd. And it felt like it. Because when those two guys entered the game, and they entered the game together with about 6.5 minutes left in the first quarter, that's when the Cavs took off. And it felt like they were like Ty changing the pace a little bit. Felt like it made a really big difference for the Cavs. On the other end, I talked about Bam. He played 40 minutes for the Heat on Saturday. He was a minus 28 in 40 minutes. It felt like it watching it. The only reason that Bam's stat line looks good is because he had 4 threes. If he would just not have made threes at an abnormal rate for him, I think we'd be talking about this game maybe even a little bit differently. But we'd certainly be talking about his performance and the job Evan Mobley did differently. Like, I think Evan deserves a lot more credit than he's probably going to get because Bam scored 22 points because he made threes. That's kind of what this boils down to. But overall, I thought that this was a very impressive win for the Cavs. They will now go for the sweep on Monday night right here in Miami. I will have a podcast after the game. I will have a podcast tomorrow morning talking about why I think it's important the Cavs sweep the Miami Heat, because it does matter. So we're going to talk about that on tomorrow's edition of Locked On Cavs. If you want to listen to that, if you want to listen to every edition of Locked On Cavs, make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. And if you're watching the show on YouTube right now, do me a favor before we get out of here. Hit that thumbs up button for me, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content, a proud part of Locked On Podcast Network. I think the sun's still up in Miami as I record this. I'm going to go check and see, but I will talk to you tomorrow right here on Locked On Cavs.